Hello, my name is Dee Schwartz. The problem I studied for this research project was how using a no exceptions of late work policy would affect students' grades in middle school. The students that participated were 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. The design process that I decided to use was the single measurement design, in which I gave a survey at the beginning of the project to determine the need for the strategy. I also used the one group pre-test and post-test design, in which I collected data from PowerSchool before and after the project to see how many failing grades there were. The additional data that I collected was a late work data log that teachers used in Google Drive to record how many students had late assignments and which students those were, so we could keep track. There was also an office late work log in which the teachers would record students' names and the secretaries would call the students to the office to complete that late work. In my research, I found that most people believe that there should be some sort of late work policy. Professor Kate Sussman from Teaching Tales said that it seems harsh, but late policies help students be successful by providing a structure or a framework for getting the work done. Melissa Kelly, who is a secondary education expert, said that if you don't have a consistent late work policy, then your students will notice. The students who turn the work in on time will be upset, and those who are consistently late will or could take advantage of you. Janet Spence, who wrote about late standards and policies in classroom leadership, originally was for late work policies and had a late work policy for her class, but she changed her views on that because she was seeing that negative consequences were not changing the students' behavior. So she was wondering why she should continue to have late work policies, and maybe it was time to change. This document here is the data that I extracted from PowerSchool. It didn't come out of PowerSchool this way, but I put it on a log so that I could make more sense of it. This is for 6th grade, and at the top you'll see that these are the subjects, and the red indicates before, the green indicates after. Total down at the bottom shows that there were 9 failing or near failing grades before when we started this project, and there were 6 at the end. What I thought was interesting about this particular grade was before, the failing grades were spread out for students and per subject. In the after, when I took my data, extracted my data from PowerSchool, I noticed that they were all in music, where in before, the first 4 weeks, there was nothing in music, or at least the first week, I guess. What I think this is attributed to here is that last week when I was collecting data, earlier that week there was a music vocal concert, and it was a final presentation, and students had to be there in order to receive as a large part of their grade, and some students couldn't be there, so they received a 0. That 0 will remain in the grade book for the teacher until those students can make up a project. It's a paper project they'll have to turn in, and that's due the day after this class is over, so I'm expecting these numbers to change here. For 7th grade, they were doing really well. There was no one that was having failing grades except one student down here at the bottom, and you'll notice that before she had 4 failing grades, and after she has 3. So this one particular student, this policy, this procedure didn't really help her, and we're in the process of trying to find something that will help her. For 8th grade, there is a group of students right here that had quite a few, and notice it's not like one person here, one person there. It's one student that has several. So there's some students that are having some difficulty that we're having to work with, so that's a challenge. But what was good to see, though, was by the 5th week, those students had gotten things taken care of, and that's by making them get in there and get their assignments done. I think they might have been a little bit lazy, but they were also probably more energetic to get them finished because graduation was coming up, and they can't graduate with their class if their grades are failing. They wouldn't graduate from our school, so that helped get them moving on that. This is a graph that shows that data that we just looked at. I'd like to point out this here at the end is the overall for all three classes, and they went from a 25 failing grades to 10 overall, and this was a 60% decrease in failing grades, which I felt was significant. This particular document here shows the data log per week. Up here it shows the grade, and then it shows the 5 weeks that this project was completed. And this just shows, these numbers here represent students. So for their security, there's no names listed, just their numbers. But what's interesting to see is down at the bottom. This is week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. And if you look at each class, notice how the numbers drop. So the 6th grade go from 27 to 3, 7th grade go from 12 to 0, 8th grade go from 8 to 2. And I thought that was very interesting to see. Here's that same information in a graph form, and that really looks great to see how many they had to how little they have. 7th grade, of course, went from 12 to 0. They were doing really well. 6th grade from 27 to 3. That was just awesome to see. There will be more discussion at the end of this year and the beginning of the next, but the consensus is that we will continue this policy into the next school year. We heard from the 5th grade teachers that the students we will be receiving next year are not very responsible about completing their homework, so it looks like we'll need to have either this policy or something like it in place at the beginning of the school year if the students are going to be successful. This has been a great experience with a positive outcome, and I hope we can make this project even better for next year. Thank you for listening.